performing asset in the first quarter of 2024. In the first 3 months of the year, it exceeded returns from Nigeria's NGX, Japan's Nikkei 225, commodity oil, and America's S&P 500. Through March 28th, since the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission approved trading for spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, 11 of the offerings have seen a net inflow of $12.1 billion. But it hasn't been all good on the ethics front. On Thursday, March 28th, FTX Co-founder Sam Bankman-Fried was sentenced to a quarter century in prison for orchestrating a multi-billion-dollar fraud on his now bankrupt cryptocurrency exchange. We spoke to members of the crypto and finance community in Nigeria for a reaction.
With regards to the arrest of Sam Bankman-Fried, the CEO of defunct FTX or FTX exchange, I believe the arrest was a welcome development. The fact of the matter is that the crypto industry is nascent and it's new. The rules were not yet written. What was expected was not yet written. There were lots of loopholes in terms of how crypto assets could easily be manipulated and markets could easily be manipulated, valuations faked, and all sorts of things. So as these sorts of issues arise, we begin to realize that, okay, these are the loopholes that need to be plugged in, and these are the kind of things that people can exploit with regards to, in relation to FTX now raising capital and manipulating collateral valuation and all of that. So, it's a welcome development.
I think it's a welcome development to the global market as a whole. Reason being that the crypto market has been shrouded with a lot of secrecy in the past, and it has somewhat aided mischievous people to do what they want to do. Now, him being convicted is a message to that community saying that if you want to be mischievous, if you want to be fraudulent, even though we can't exactly trace all the transactions in the cryptocurrency entity or segment of the economy, we will still come for you. So whilst we cannot regulate every single step of the cryptocurrency markets, but we can say that if anyone is caught for anything close to fraud, he will be convicted in the regular court like we know it.
But does this sentencing of Sam Bankman-Fried reflect poorly on the crypto industry or SBF as an individual? We asked our community.
I would say half and half. The fact is, one of the reasons why he could thrive for so long as an exchange committing fraud is because there was no regulation, there was no oversight. So to the extent that there's no oversight, like you have a stock exchange that reports to the SEC in whatever country, there can be room for this. So yes, it reflects on the market as a whole. But then also as an individual, you have a role to play. You have a role to defend what crypto is about. So the way most people in crypto markets, they sort of defend the markets. And so everyone in that market has a calling, or if you can call it that, to defend what it stands for.
Yeah, does it reflect on the crypto industry? Yes, it does. It has made people more cautious that, this isn't all honk and dory. This is traditional finance. It's not some boogeyman finance. It's traditional. It's pretty much like what we've been doing in stock exchange and other things, but it's just digital, So, in fairness, I think, yes, Sam Bankman-Fried as a human being showed greed, which every other human being shows. Yes, he took, if it wasn't him, some other person would have taken advantage of the criminal loophole that existed, and he's going to go to prison for 25 years, and he would suffer for his actions, really. So, but with regards to the crypto industry has learned that, listen, this isn't, this is real business here, and it's going to be more serious going forward, in my opinion.
I'll say it does on both, but as it reflects more as an individual than in the crypto industry. Every industry has its scammers, whether they are the black hackers or the corporate scammers, the likes of Benny Madoff, the stock exchange, that literally created a Ponzi scheme out of something legal and fooled his rich clients. It's the same thing that SBF did. So it reflects both on both ways, both the industry and on him as a person. But I think on him as a person, because scams are in every industry. They are in, whether it's crypto, whether it's the financial sector, whether it's normal buying and selling, oil industry, banking, there are scams everywhere, and even corporate scams, large run scams. So it's not just about a reflection on the industry. It's actually also a reflection on the person, but more on the person than in the industry.
Cryptocurrency exchange Binance made headlines in Nigeria in the first quarter of 2024. Tigran Gambrayan, Binance VP of Global Intelligence and Investigations, on the left, and Nadeem Anjarwalla, Africa Regional Manager, were detained in Nigeria by authorities after flying into the country to discuss allegations of wrongdoing by the platform's trading activities in Nigeria. Nadeem somehow managed to escape, while Tigran has sued Nigerian authorities for violating his human rights. Nigeria's Federal Inland Revenue Service has also brought up tax evasion charges against the platform, saying it has avoided paying value-added tax, company income tax, and enabled its users to avoid remitting taxes. We asked our community for reactions.
If Nigeria had a good regulatory system that's coming from our SEC, coming from our banks, from our central bank, if these two entities were working together in sync, Binance would happily pay. Like, there would be a structure to say, we know you are getting, because basically you have operations here in Nigeria, so pay us tax. These things weren't set from the beginning. Binance has been serving Nigerians, I think, since 2018 or 2017. And it's just, I think, last year or two years ago that Nigeria started warming up to want to regulate crypto. And they're only looking at the regulation from the user side. They're not looking at regulation from the institutional side. That's why a company can serve Nigerians and not even have any base here in Nigeria, such that you can't hold them in their hand to say, okay, I'm taxing you. There's no basis for them. What Nigeria is doing now is something that they should have done about 5 years ago.
The federal government has gone to seek redress. We're all sitting out here to see how it's going to go, as to whether Binance is broken Nigerian tax laws, even though I don't think they're registered in Nigeria. But it will be an interesting case. And I suspect that the outcome is going to be a landmark case, because if the federal government can successfully prove its case, I can see it affecting a whole host of other services, from digital services, physical services, if they can successfully prove their cases in court.
Binance situation is quite interesting, and I mean, we really need to understand, or maybe the federal government really needs to explain what it is about Binance compared to other P2P platforms on the various platforms that we have, or the various different apps on the various platforms that we have. I say that because most of the apps that we use, they're not registered in Nigeria, one, they don't pay taxes in Nigeria. So why do they think that Binance should be different? So we need to hear more about that. That's on one side. But I do know that there are some global companies who don't have presence in Nigeria, but would still give a VAT line and will ask for your TIN, whether as an individual or as a corporate, while doing services while servicing Nigerians. So I'm not sure what the laws are. But when it comes to corporate income tax, company income tax, it's a new ball game. The lawyers need to come and tell us what the law says about a foreign company without a presence in Nigeria, paying taxes in Nigeria, company income tax, and also filing locally when there's no company registration locally. And so we'll wait for the court to interpret.
We also asked if Bitcoin's impressive performance in Q1 2024 means it remains an attractive asset for investment.
Generally, I tell people that once the cheese has moved, it's not a time. Once it's in the news that something is doing very well, it's probably too late for you to get on it. That's one. But why is crypto really going so high right now? One, I hear there's a Harvard event that is coming where there's going to be increased scarcity of Bitcoins. right? So with that increased scarcity comes an increase in price. And of course, a lot of institutional and retail investors are gradually picking up on Bitcoins and crypto markets generally. So should you go into it? I would say yes and no. And you might say I'm sitting on the fence. I would say yes, because I think that as the world has gone from paper money backed by gold to paper money backed by trust, I think because we are going digital, there's going to be a digital currency. Now, we are going to have to evolve on what that digital currency actually looks like. But Bitcoin and the crypto market is somewhat of that kind of currency where logically, as a global society, we'll be moving on to. So if you want a piece of the pie before it becomes 1 million for a unit, $1 million for a unit, then maybe you should put a little piece of your portfolio in it.
It is definitely. 4 years ago, the last halving and now, I think that the last halving, Bitcoin was around $20-something thousand. No, either 8 or 20-something now. I'll get my facts right later. And now, 2024, $8,000, sorry. It was around $8,000 in 2020. And 4 years later, I think today it should be at $68,000. That's a lot of, that's almost 1,000, no, okay, it's not 1,000, but that's a lot of profits already that anybody would have made or on their investment. So it's a great asset to keep investing. And besides, it isn't controlled by anybody. It's completely decentralized. It is regulated by maths and logic, things that are already set in there. And that's why we can expect the Bitcoin halving and know exactly when it will come, because we're counting the blocks to that time. We know also that when the halving comes, usually there's a dump, not financial advice. When the halving comes, usually there's a dump in the market because miners are trying to do their thing. And then later on, there's an upsurge because supply has been reduced. That's essentially what the Bitcoin halving is about. So a lot of us are getting our funds ready to buy the dip. Some of us who already have funds are looking to, sell, take profits right now, leave the remaining ones, and then buy the dip later on for the next rally. So it's still a very good asset to invest in.
Bitcoin's performance in the first quarter of this year is very good, has been very good. But the problem is when looking at the performance of an asset, if you pick any time frame, you could always pick a favorable time frame. So I could look at the Naira's performance over the past 3 weeks and tell you, the Naira has been the best performing currency over the past 3 weeks, right? So the time frame of this year has been favorable towards Bitcoin, which is accurate. But then if you say, okay, how has Bitcoin performed over the past 1 year or over the past 2 years, it will be different. So would the market go to all-time highs? Everyone seems to think it will, right? And as a trader, I tend to be very wary when everyone thinks the market is going to go a certain direction because everybody cannot make money. In fact, the majority of people will lose money. So it's always good to be contrarian and stand against what the market is saying, So but everyone seems to think the market is going towards all-time highs. People are very bullish. People are coming into the market, and it'll be interesting to see how things go.
A very eventful first quarter for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. All eyes on what lies ahead in the second quarter of 2024. Rodo Sodiri, Arise News.